Life is extremely short and it might just go past us in a blink of an eye. Yes, today we are going to talk about a topic that has intrigued the human mind from the start of the civilizational era. It is a topic that almost every god man or every religion or every human being has at least talked about or at least thought about once in their life. It is life after death. Is there actually a world beyond the one that we live in currently? Is there a different realm or dimension? What is life after death? And what happens to us? Our close family members, friends, relatives, little children, parents in the family, or our little furry friends who have been with us throughout this huge journey. What happens to them? So, here we're going to talk about this very topic. And before we start, I want you all to know that a small bend in the road is not always the end of the road. We'll aim to cover this topic through the lenses of various people and sciences along with religion, God-man, spirituality. We'll basically talk about this in terms of various perspectives, namely what does science feel about spirituality, life after death and energies? What does religion or spirituality and spiritual gurus feel about this? What do some of the prominent see-throughers or future seers feel about this? And what have they actually seen and shared with us? What do some of the dog whisperers or dog talkers talk about this? And this is a bit that probably anyone who has have a pet in their life would be very interested on the very end of it, in terms of how animal communicators have actually showed us what life after death is for their furry friends as well. So first, to begin in terms of science, since we have all read physics extremely well, let me give you an example in terms of electromagnetic waves that the human body or anybody who has a soul or has a life form radiates. Now, as you know, and you would have read in your textbooks, that let's take a balloon and rub it on your head, and take that same exact balloon next to a few chits of paper. You can see how those chits of paper attract to the balloon. Now that is because of the transfer of energy that is happening over there. Some of you might debate saying that because of the motion, there is that energy or frequency getting created. However, what about the electromagnetic fields that are seen through the lenses, ultraviolet cameras? You can clearly see the radiation, you can see how there's a heat wave being generated, and you can see it on these cameras as well. Now, since we know that the human body and all living forms do radiate a certain amount of energy, some might radiate extremely high energy, some might extremely low energy. However, there is an energy, and as we know that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Simple. A hydro energy can become an electrical energy. A solar energy can become another form of energy, but you cannot create this energy all on your own, nor can you destroy it completely. Energy is only transferred from one form to the other, or in terms of life after death, can either move up to a bigger realm and get part of another bigger source of energy, or be part of the surrounding and merge with the energy of the atmosphere or of the place. In terms of religion, now we will discuss this and see this through the prisms of Christianity and Hinduism. Now, when we come to Christianity, you must understand the core principle of Christianity, that is one body, one soul. And when the soul leaves the body and moves ahead, that is what is considered as death. During this point of time, the soul moves up higher to a higher realm, where it is judged or the final decision is made. Now, this decision is made in terms of three core things. That is, did the soul during its time on earth have faith in God? Did it live gracefully? And did it live a moral life? And in terms of all the actions and things and decisions it took down on earth. According to that, either the gates of heaven are opened for it, or they are shunned down to hell for an eternity. Now, in Hinduism, it's said that a soul or an Atma is never born and never dies. It just moves from one body to the other. The body is left, but the Atma moves on, and it moves ahead in either Swarg, which is heaven, or to Nark, which is hell. It gets move from one body to the other depending on its karmas or the actions it does on earth, and it is stuck over there till it actually clears its karmic wheel or karmic baggage. And once it does that, it moves ahead for moksha, which is heaven. Moksha is basically being free of that entire karmic baggage and being free from this entire cycle of life and death, which is repetitive. Here, how do you reach moksha, to reach swarg and reach heaven and being free from these entire cycles of births and rebirths? Are through being divine, having faith, having knowledge, and doing the right actions and your karma. Through these specific things, you do get access and you get moksha and you do move ahead to heaven. Now, when we compare this exact thing slightly to Hinduism, it is quite similar yet slightly different. Here in Hinduism, what we see, what is the soul in Christianity, is the Atma in Hinduism, which is the same thing. Here, the exact same concept continues where the body and the Atma or the soul leave each other and the soul moves up. Now, the only difference over here is, while this has an immediate judgment and a prediction, despite of that, Hinduism does have the same concepts of heaven, which is Swarg, and Nark, which is hell. But it does have various other dimensions, realms, and levels where it talks about in terms of bad deeds and doing bad to people. It adds a new concept called karma, which is the addition of the traits and deeds that you have done throughout your life. And depending on that, either you are able to move up to heaven, that means you have gotten moksha, or you have prapt moksha, that you have got ultimate bliss and you have moved up to the highest realm possible, or you are again trapped or sent back to nark, which is hell, or you are trapped in the cycle of birth, rebirth, birth, rebirth, birth, rebirth, again and again till you come back to the very life form that you are in, or another life form where all your karmas or your bad deeds are repented, and eventually you're able to move up and your judgment is taken and you move up to heaven, and that is swarg. So with a slight bit of difference but quite a lot of similarity between the two when it talks about life after death. However, when we talk about Hinduism, it gets a little more trickier with the concept of karma, life after death, and the cycle of births and rebirths that happen, which are in addition to the same, where it talks about life forms apart from the only human life forms. Now, when we talk about those future seers, we are going to talk about two mainly extremely popular ones. One is Baba Vanga, who was there in Eastern Europe during the Second World War, and he has predicted a lot of things during the same time and for the future events, and a lot of them have come true and few we have to still wait and watch. The second one is Edgar Cayce. An extremely popular one is also referred to as the sleeping prophet, who has had a lot of experiences which he has had while sleeping, and all of these visions have come true, where he says he is entering an archives where he's able to see a lot of happenings and future happenings, and in terms of life after death and people's births and rebirths and deaths and the entire records of the same. Now, when we talk about this, I know I am not referring to Nostradamus in this entire thing, and that is namely because despite the fact that Nostradamus has spoken about a numerous amount of future readings and sights that he has seen, and a lot of them have also come true, however, he has not actually in depth dwelled on the topic of life after death or on heaven and hell or anything beyond the actual living world. So that is why we're going to talk about Baba Vanga and Edgar Cayce. Now, Baba Vanga namely goes ahead and says that post the Second World War, in the times of late 90s and 2000s, when the technological advancement happens extremely rapidly and the world becomes as much and much more mechanical and robotic, and we as humans are taken away from the real world, we will become more close to animals, and the importance of animals' lives in our lives will increase. And these animals will develop very heightened senses. These senses will help us connect to God and to the afterlife. Along with this, the main reason she gives is that the animals are far more purer souls than us humans over here. Now, the reason for that is, she says, animals do not have egos, they do not have prides, do not run behind any materialistic wealth or anything in particular. What they do is live in the moment, and that is one of the reasons they are able to foresee or sense energies much beyond. She also says that animals will be able to predict their own destiny, their deaths, and would be able to see the realm from a much more larger perspective than us humans. A quick example of that in terms of actual facts that we have seen earlier this year is in 2025 in India, Himachal Pradesh. You can all Google this. There was a dog, small little puppy named as Rocky. He saved the entire village of around 70-80 people who were there at the footsteps of an entire hill. During the middle of the night, this little puppy called Rocky was able to interpret or understand that there was a massive landslide that was going to occur. While all these people who have stayed here for numerous years were not able to understand the same. This little puppy quickly woke up, woke the entire village up. As the people woke and understood what was going to happen or be their fate, they took him and left the village. And in a matter of few minutes post them leaving, the entire village crumbled and was thrown under the hill, and there were rocks all on top of it. And this entire event was covered by news, and this little puppy called Rocky became the hero of the town. So this is a quick example of what Baba Vanga said, that animals such as dogs, cats, and all of our little furry friends are going to have much more heightened vision and are going to be more reciprocative to events around us. And that is why it becomes extremely important for us to be close to them if we want to understand life and the life beyond just the one that we are living in this continuous or this particular realm or this particular dimension. Now, she does say in terms of life after death, in terms of a very similar thing what Christianity talks about, the soul leaving the body and moving ahead, and in terms of the judgment. Here she does mention that the dogs or various furry animals will keep coming back and forth since they have no guilt or nothing particular or no ego and no particular attachment. They become a mediating gateway. Now, when we come to Edgar Cayce, he has a much more extensive version where he talks about the same. He does talks about the humans in the similar manner where we do move up and there's a judgment that does happen, and according to which they move ahead or beyond or go shunned to hell. But only trick over here, what he talks about is similar to Baba Vanga. Here he says, while our little furry friends do leave their physical body, when they are entered in this new realm, astro field, what he actually ends up explaining is an entire ground where they are welcomed with a lot of positive energy, and for them it is a whole coming time. Here he is quite different from Baba Vanga. Reason is that Baba Vanga says the similar concept as Christianity, one soul, one body. However, for Cayce he says all of these dogs are a combined spirit of a much more larger being or a larger group spirit. Now here what ends up happening is, that is why when the spirit moves out of the real world or the world that we live in and moves to the astral plane, there is a growth spirit that is formed, and that becomes much more wiser and bigger. Because for him, what he is able to describe is, let's say a small little dog who or a little cat that was suffering and was not able to see things very well. For them, the vision was blurry and black and white. But when they move to the astro field or the astral realm, that is where they're able to see things from a completely colored and much more higher 8K perspective. And suddenly, for them, the amount of information they are getting and they are able to retain and understand is far more than what we can even understand at this point of time. Now, what he does talk about is, because the dogs do suddenly leave the real world that we are in and move to this astro realm, they need few guides to help them out. First, to make them adjust. So let's say a dog has died a very tragic death, and in a matter of harsh circumstances. During that point of time, they need one particular guide, a guide who is very connected to the family that was there with this dog, or a spirit or a set of spirits who have a spirit contract with this particular dog or animal, who guide them and make them adjust to this new astro realm. Now, there are three basic spirits that will come down and help them. These three basic guides. The first one helps them adjust. The second one now will help them stay connected to the world outside, that is our world. So they will keep coming and going. They will be there in the realm, and they will come back to earth and visit their families repetitively. Then it comes to a third spirit. A third spirit is a judgment one, the one that will help this animal make a final decision. As we understand how animals and human spirits are considered very different in terms of Christianity, the same thing in terms of Hinduism is very different, because the Hindu spirits say that the humans and the animals is one spirit, it just keeps changing and having rebirths and births. Here what they say is the animal spirit is free from judgment. In Hinduism, they say it is free from judgment, but it starts alienating and getting rid of the baggage of their old karma. They do not add more karmas or more baggages. They only add the good ones. Here in Christianity, similarly, they say they do not add any bad baggages. And that is why they have these guides, people helping them out throughout this. So the last third spirit or the last third guide helps them make that final judgment call, whether the spirit or the animal wants to move ahead and move directly towards heaven forever if their journey has been completed on earth. Either they want to take more time and stray in the astro realm. Now, I want to tell you one thing. The astro realm, a few minutes on the astro realm is like a few years in the real world. So there's a high chance that if you have a furry friend who has left you, they might be there in the astro realm. They will keep coming and visiting you throughout this time before they move up to heaven completely. And a third decision is that either they would want to sign another soul contract and go back on earth as another dog or another being or another creature, and kind of complete that entire cycle once again. Another thing that Edward Cayce said was in terms of anyone who has passed away and moved to the other realm, the other dimension, in terms of the astro realm. It is our family members, it's our beloved furry friends, our little baby doggies, but they do get the action, or they do understand when we are missing them. And these signals or these messages come to them not in terms of words or photos, but in terms of colors. Now, whenever we think of them in a very negative thing and we are very emotional and we are very sad, or we feel a lot of sorrow for our beloved or lost members of families, all these spirits and souls do receive very warm or very extremely warm colors. They're able to see these colors. But however, when we think of them in a positive light, in terms of all the happy memories, all the good times, and we cherish the good times that we have had, that is when they see a lot of lighter colors. And through these colors, they're able to remember how we are feeling and how we are connected. Cayce does say that this bond is never broken, irrespective of if it was a human or if it was an animal. These bonds are there for lifelong. And these souls, your little dogs, cats, your humans, your baby, they will all try to connect with you one way or the other. I know a lot of you will say that these can be our brains playing games on us, right? But to say otherwise, let's say, I do understand you'll say it is a motor skill. I am very prevalent or very, this is something I used to do always. I used to look in that particular direction, and I used to remember that I had my dog sitting over there, or I had my child who was always playing over there before it passed, or my friend was always coming that side. However, apart from these motor skills, there's something far more deeper and far more bigger. They say that they are small little messages that will keep coming if you do keep your hands and your mind and your eyes and ears open. Along with that, a very big example of that he does say is the dream world. Now I know you will say that probably it's because of the grief or our mind is playing tricks. However, what Casey and a lot of other people in terms of the spiritual realm and everyone who has experienced the same say is that dreams are a playing ground where all of these souls can interconnect and share. This is a time when your body or your soul kind of leaves the actual world and moves to a different realm. And that is why we quickly move to the animal communicators. Now, what are animal communicators? Since we know in terms of the humans understanding that humans can communicate with each other, now how it gets more complicated for the animals and why I'm covering this a little bit more extensively is because we do not understand and we cannot communicate directly, so we do not have an understanding. And there's a lot of vagueness or a lot of gaps, and we are left with a lot more questions whether our furry friend, our little furry sibling or sister or little babies that we had in our house, were they comfortable, were they able to move ahead? And people have their own internal guilts. Now that is when animal communicators come in, and a lot of these communicators have not only helped these people understand. So I'm giving you an example of a few communicators who communicated with few animals such as dogs and cats, who already knew when their time was due and they were going to die. Some of them were extremely accurate in terms of, this is the time I'm going to pass away tomorrow at this particular point of time. And they did not want their family to know. Sometimes they did let their family to know. This is the reason that a lot of these communicators say, just like how Baba Vanga said, that a lot of these animals are far more advanced and far more in connect with their own lives, and they are far more superior beings, as she says, because they know when their time is and when they are going to go, and they know exactly when is the next life they want and with who they want. They also do communicate in terms of things such as a dog coming back to the same family because of having a karmic connection, or a soul bond or a soul contract that we also say. So let's say she's also described in terms of a specific dog who passed away from a family coming back to that family 4 times. And this, while talking to this dog, she says that this dog does come back saying that he has a karmic connection with the lady of the house, and due to which he wants to keep coming back because there is something that cannot be ever undone. And sometimes it happens like that. She's also mentioned how sometimes an animal that was very badly treated on the roadside or died, or a human or any particular creature who was very badly alienated and now takes birth and comes as a dog. They do choose the birth they want, they do choose the family they want. So when we say that animals, you do not choose dogs, dogs choose you, it is quite true, because a lot of times these dogs do choose you. And according to these animal communicators, they do say that some of these dogs do have this last bit of their karma or the last bit of their soul that requires that, which is that connect, the love, the bond, a family. And that is why they do take birth again, and they do come back to a particular family to have that connect. And once that connect is established, it's done, that bond has been created, that karmic cycle is done. Sometimes they are free from everything that they had, and post that the dog does stay in that astral realm, come and visit the family, and eventually moves up to heaven, because there is nothing else that is holding them. But there are times that the dog does say that I do want to come back to this particular family. And these are just a lot of perspectives that I have been reading and understanding in terms of science, in terms of religion, some of the future seers, and the dog communicators. And I just wanted to go ahead and share it all with all of you. Probably if you have lost someone in your family, your sibling, your parents, your friend, someone extremely close, your probably spouse, your little furry friend who could be a furry sibling, your little babies that you had got home, probably you miss them. If this video is able to get you that slight bit of closure or help you understand, or help you understand a bit in terms of life and life after that, in terms of spirituality, religion, and what these few people who are far more ahead and in tune with their own lives and their chakra are able to tell us. If all this thing is able to help you, then I am very happy that I was able to be of that connection, and probably this is a connection we were able to make. So if you thought this video was helpful for you, please do feel free to share it with anyone else who you think should watch this or would help them out. Till next time, thank you so much.